Hello trainers and welcome back to Unite Rewind, where I recap the most recent action in Pokemon Unite EU Esports. In this episode we cover round 4 of the European League, Masters by Unity Clash, and we go through the mid-seasonal tournament. An incredible weekend this was, an insane weekend as the bottom 3 teams in the league dominated the storylines, but we'll get to that later. 4 games to bring you in round 4 before we move into our mid-seasonal tournament now, so let's get stuck into it. So we kick it off with the undefeated champs, Rework Esport Gear, taking on Los Duros, who are only lagging behind by 1 set. Los Duros stick with the double-ranged attacker squad, whereas Rework go for strong frontline and crowd control. Rework have a brilliant early game with Blastoise getting online early enough, and Los Duros not being able to score a single point until 3:38 left in the game, and they only get 15 points at that. The issue for Los Duros in this game is that whilst they have strong self-sustain on the Mega Gyarados, Blissey and Vaporeon trio, they just can't lock down anyone from Gear. Darkrai goes under the map with Dark Pulse, and Los Duros is left in crowd control hell as Darkrai and Mew hit their HP pools. We come into the final fight with only 15 points for Los Duros, but 124 points for Rework, who are constantly defending their T1 pads and even backcapping an 80 dunk. The fight becomes more of the same in this game as Gear use their crowd control to trap Los Duros and KO their main threats. Los Duros go for a rip, but there isn't enough time, and game 1 goes to Rework Esport Gear. Game 2, and both teams have similar comps looking to get plenty out of their speedsters. Los Duros get more out of theirs in the early game as Leafeon struggles a little, however, they come into the first objective with Emerald 2-step, and paired with Blastoise, Esport Gear take the bottom Reggie buff and then defend their T1 pad. Frigo continues to be amazing on Blastoise here, landing perfect eject Hydro Typhoon combos, and with a minute before the Groudon comes into the game, Esport Gear have the lead in levels and points. We hit the final fight and Rio gets caught out on the Empoleon for Gear. Los Duros try to lock in and find more KOs. They use a lot of resources going for the Blastoise, but can't find the KO. Esport Gear find KOs on the squishy Pokemon of Los Duros and then decide to defend. Los Duros go for a rip, but they can't out-secure Ickless on Miraidon and they throw up the white flag. Good effort from Los Duros, keeping it close for the game, but Rework Esport Gear continue to be a beast at the final objectives, and they win the set 2-0. Next up is the Legends Team Int taking on second to last place Phantom Forces. Pancakes takes the Mimikyu here, paired with Bida on her Eldegoss, which is a little filthy for them. Phantom Forces get the Blastoise though, paired with the Mega Lucario and Clefable combo. Game 1 sees a very even game, which is impressive from Phantom Forces. The auto attacker on Cinderace works so well with their burn to stop stacks. Average Carry takes the Psyshock Espeon and rarely misses a shot on it to chunk away the Umbreon and Mega Gyarados HP pools. Zika does start to take a level lead on Gyarados alongside Pancakes on the Mimikyu with a few minutes left. Team Int make a push to get the final Regieleki before we see Groudon, and it works to give them space in the central area as Phantom Forces destroy the Regieleki and Team Int are set up in an aggressive position. They try and ambush into the central area and use the Moonlight Prance with a Bright Future Meteor Storm, but only find the Espeon in it. Pancakes gets KO'd and Phantom Forces rip the Kyogre due to Team Int having to reset. 50 seconds left and Phantom Forces pushes points in and find more KOs. Blastoise and Cinderace work to treat for them in the late game. Phantom Forces takes game 1. Game 2 and Team Int go back to their bread and butter. Pancakes on Machamp and Zika on Mimikyu, whereas Phantom Forces opt to just run it back. Paggy has a great early game and hits level 9 on Cinderace just after the first objective spawn in. Team Int, however, managed to bait Phantom Forces to break their bottom T1 pad and then take the fight to slightly even out the level differences. Zika does manage to keep up with Phantom Forces levels throughout, still a back and forth game as expected. One team manages to take the lead and the other just bounces back with points themselves. Both teams move to counter laning on each other and grabbing as much experience as they can. Phantom Forces has a 57 point lead before Groudon and they get the Regieleki, which Team Int allow in. Team Int use block and submission onto Blastoise, but they just don't have the damage to find the KO and Kree gets out of there. However, Team Int then send all their Unite moves into 3 of Phantom Forces and manage to find quick KOs until eventually Team Int get the team wipe and take the Groudon. Ellen uses her block on Snorlax, and Team Int score Hundo Burgers. We're going to a game 3 as Team Int takes game 2. Moving into game 3, and Husky's adorable cat gives us his opinion on the mic, believing the next game will come down to the wire.
A bit more of an escape ability if it does get dived, but Lucario kind of just gonna have to sit there and absorb the damage.
We'll see if Karma's gonna get out of the way. That's his tail right now, directly in my camera. He's got a little spot over here. I set him up with like a little blanket, but I guess he just came in.
Well, it's time to find out as Mr. Mime is pulled out by Team Int to help with the frontline comp that Phantom Forces brings to the fight. Team Int gets a better early game, Ellen cooks on Mr. Mime, and Zika gets going on her Shifu. Team Int scores 122 points to Phantom Forces 4 points before the 7-minute mark. Team Int continues to invade the central area of Phantom Forces to limit their experience, but Phantom Forces manages to secure the Regice for much needed experience, and they then find 3 KOs in the bottom pad and break it to even out the game. All of a sudden, we've got a game on our hands. Team Int get very confident at this stage and push a fight they shouldn't. Phantom Forces takes a huge KO on Pancakes and scores more points, but they then stay too long and Team Int respond with some revenge KOs. Bida pops a Rings Unbound Unite move at the T2 of Phantom Forces after taking the Regieleki, and the team break that T2 before it gets there. So it walks close to the home pad, and Phantom Forces does defend it, but it opens the door for a 2-minute Regieleki for Team Int to take and push into that home pad. The rip is instant from Phantom Forces though, and they stop the win condition. 98 point lead to Team Int as Kyogre spawns, but both teams are very patient. Phantom Forces starts the fight by pairing the Dragon Current with the Hydra Typhoon, but it isn't enough. All Unite moves are popped off, and the Showtime and Rings Unbound work so well to keep Team Int on their feet. They take down Phantom Forces in quick succession and secure the Kyogre. Team Int take the set 2-1, but Phantom Forces just put in their best showing yet. We move on to Supernova, the third to last team taking on top team Rework Esport Core here. Supernova draft a fascinating comp, starting with their Crustle Slowbro combo and then go for triple Speedster. I love the strategy, to be honest. You know you're against the #1 squad, so you gotta bring something unusual. Esport Core go for a solid comp with strong crowd control and Ceruledge for dodging the speedsters. Despite the 3 speedsters though, Esport Core have a decent early game and keep it very close. Vaporeon and Snorlax takes a lot of resources from Supernova to be taken down, and Esport Core capitalize on this well. Supernova does force them to be less aggressive than we expect from this team though, and they go for a strategy of holding the speedsters' attention with the front line and Mewtwo Y, whilst Lucario and Ceruledge counter lane. Huge defensive hold by Supernova stops the T1 in the top lane being broken, but it also means they haven't been able to score more points. Ceruledge is so strong for Esport Core here, picking up massive KOs and secures on objectives. Rubble Rouser gets used early by Supernova, and coming into the final fight, Ceruledge cleans up off the back of their brilliant frontline from Esport Core. They take all of Supernova and boom, the game is theirs, and they put up the white flag. Game 2, and it's very much more control from Rework Esport Core. They take a quick lead in this game, and Supernova have work to do. They do manage to do that though, as they counter lane and cut the score difference down to 100 points coming into the final fight. Level 10s for Supernova, but level 14 on their Talonflame gives them the highest level Pokemon in the game. The fight kicks off just before the objective comes in. Revenant Rend is used, but they get hit by the Slow Beam, and Supernova manage to find 3 KOs on Esport Core and then rip the Groudon to take it. Supernova scores enough to take the lead and then retreat back to their home pad, knowing they have a minute to defend. The Groudon buff does the work here, as Supernova defends well on their home pad and manage to take game 2. Our next game 3 is up next. Supernova go for the classic Armarouge Mr. Mime pair here in game 3, which works very well into Esport Core's comp. As soon as Power Swap and Fire Spin are online, Supernova find themselves winning the team fights, and they manage to keep the pressure on invading the central area for Core. Cypher manages to keep Core in it though with some good KOs on Armarouge. The team fights continue to go to Supernova with their Showtime being used well to defend the Armor Rouge though. Snipe shots from Inteleon does secure a Registeal for Esport Core though, and this helps keep them in the level race. Inteleon is pretty much untouched in this game, and they can land snipe shots all day long. Supernova uses all their Unite moves seconds before Kyogre arrives, and Esport Core finds the KOs onto the Armor Rouge and Leafeon. They then hunt down free from Supernova and start the rip on Kyogre and secure it. Cypher does fall with 45 seconds left, and Supernova are only 200 points behind. They push on to the T1 and manage to score a decent amount and push on to the T2. 17 seconds left and more points go in for Supernova, breaking the T2 pad. Continuing the push, they manage a final dunk into the home pad, and it's enough for Supernova to take the game by just 2 points. Supernova, the third to last place team, have just defeated the first place team in a 2-1 set. After that craziness, we have a midfield fight for the final game of round 4. MTZ Esports takes on Thank You Todo. Glaceon is back on the field here as MTZ pair it with Miraidon for great ranged attack. Thank You Todo managed to grab the Mega Charizard X, and the early game is crazy here as it takes 2.5 minutes before we see any points rain in. Thank You Todo gets their Charizard so close to their Unite move before the 7-minute mark, but MTZ has scored 91 points to their 0. Regirock spawns and MTZ locks it in with their enhanced charge beam Miraidon, and MTZ controls the map well in this one, and the double rip damage works so effectively as Umbreon and Darkrai tank so well for them. Thank You Todo managed to keep up with the levels though, despite being unable to secure the objectives. Darkrai just refuses to go down in this game, despite being caught in the arms of Buzzwole a few times. Melook manages to lock down Mega Charizard X, and they can't do much in the team fights. Thank You Todo managed to cut the score lead down though. They are still behind by the time Kyogre spawns. MTZ gets a Regirock buff just before it comes in, and the ball is in the court of Thank You Todo. Darkrai is instrumental in this fight as they nearly KO Charizard before they can even use their own Unite move. MTZ wants to go for the rip, and Glaceon locks in the Kyogre, and they go and score 2 hundo burgers to take game 1. Adjustments in game 2 as MTZ go for the 2 speedster plan of Rapidash and Mimikyu. They don't really have a front line though, with Psyduck being their tankiest Pokemon. Thank You Todo have a well-balanced comp, and the Talonflame proves to be a big problem for MTZ throughout this game. MTZ do manage to outpace Thank You Todo in this one though. Both teams rotate quickly in this match, and MTZ work on breaking T1 pads to prevent the quick rotations from Hooper. MTZ find control throughout the map and have a 90-point lead coming into the Groudon fight. An ambush is set and MTZ nearly catch out Blastoise, but some quick portals from Hooper and they keep Blastoise in the fight. Thank You Todo take a little too long to pull out the Rings Unbound in this one though. Talonflame was backcapping as MTZ finds the KOs on Thank You Todo one by one. The rip on the Groudon starts and Talonflame flame sweeps in to try and get the positioning for their fly to be able to secure it. MTZ just stops dropping the damage and wait for Talon to land before they get the KO, secure the objective, and go on to win the game. MTZ Esports wins the set 2-0. Now we move on to an insane mid-seasonal tournament, where the wins each team gets will be added to their record for the season. I'll just give you an overview of the tournament for now, and I strongly recommend you go watch it over on Gatlu's channel because these games were UCS levels of goodness. The biggest storyline in this one is that both Rework Esport rosters lose their undefeated records, and the bottom 3 teams in this league have the best run of their lives to completely flip the standings on their head. Italian Diff is Thank You Todo, who have a new roster and have renamed. Due to starting so late, they start the mid-seasonal in last place. However, they don't stay there as they have an incredible run, defeating Rework Esport Gear 2-1 to kick the day off. Rework Gear now have to run all the way through a best-of-1 loser bracket if they want to make the final. Italian Diff then defeat fan favourites Los Duros in 2-0 fashion, before moving on to take on Supernova in the winners final. That's right guys, Supernova, the third to last team in the standings, have defeated Team Int 2-1 and Rework Esport Core 2-0 to make it to the winners final. Both Rework Esport squads have been defeated by the lower 3 teams in the league. Huge shout out to Phantom Forces as well, as they went to the lower bracket in round 1, but fought all their way through Team Int and Los Duros to manage a losers semi-final finish. We have an incredible Rework match up in the losers quarterfinal though, as Gia manages to defeat Core and prove to be the better squad this week. Now moving back to our winners final, Italian Diff and Supernova give us a brilliant set, making it very close, but eventually Italian Diff manages a 2-0 win, and the lowest ranked team is the first into the grand final, which is just insane levels of craziness. Supernova are matched back up against Rework Gear in the losers final, but this time they can't find the winning strategy, and Gear find themselves facing Italian Diff yet again in the grand final. The day started with Italian Diff versus Gear, and now it will end with the same. Rework Esport Gear play the set angry though, and whilst Italian Diff does push them in the games, Gear has some great team synergy to lock in the 2-0 set. Rework Esport Gear wins the mid-seasonal, but the entire league standings have been thrown onto its head. That's it for a week or so now, as EUICE is up this weekend, and I'm spending my time cheering for EU in the crowd. If you see me there, please come say hi, and if not, well, I'll be back on the mic for the 22nd of February for EUL Masters Round 5. A mid-season update for the last hit league by Komai Esports and Crowd Control now. Electro Drifters continue to cement first place as the undefeated team in this league. Onabi Esports has a slight advantage over Crowd Control Blue, who only just manages third position over Raccoon in Peace, who in turn, thanks to their week 3 win, managed to have a little advantage over Crowd Control Red. Finally, the Bold Guides, Lunary X, and the Jigglytuffs are not far behind in the backside of the standings. It's all to play for in the last 3 weeks before they hit playoffs, and Last Hit League will also return for Week 5 action on February the 27th and 28th, so make sure to not miss it on the Komai and Crowd Control Twitch channels. Alrighty guys, as always, hit that sub button to make sure you're kept up to date with EU Pokemon Unite. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, trainers, and I'll see you on the next one.